The merger between the Fairfax Group and Rural Press was formally completed last week. The company now has two clear challenges: a successful integration and how to transform itself into a digital media group to deal with the growing threat from online media. Already it's at war with its own journalists, who went on strike over a reorganisation aimed at making Fairfax more efficient. Chief Executive David Kirk spoke to Sky Business reporter Helen McCombie about the mood at Fairfax.
I think the changes that we're making are very logical and sensible. We're merging the production processes in the Sun Herald, the Sunday paper, and the Sydney Morning Herald. There are 150 people that work in graphic arts and design and sub-editing, and we're asking for voluntary redundancies. We're proposing a program of voluntary redundancies of 30 to 35. It's just a normal business improvement project that makes a lot of sense.
But the journalists were threatened with penalties of $6,000 each. You are playing hardball. This is a different approach at Fairfax.
No, the journalists haven't been threatened at all. The fact of the matter is, if you take a legal strike action, you do open yourself up to legal issues, and it's nothing that we've put forward, nothing that we've proposed. I think that is a theoretical possibility given the action they've taken.
But now more than ever, you do need harmony and cooperation, because you're creating a digital media company and you're trying to integrate Rural Press.
That's absolutely right, we do. We all need to work together, but we all need to make changes as well. Lots of things are changing in this business, not just in editorial. We're changing in sales, we're changing in where we're housing ourselves, and we need to adapt. But you're absolutely right, we do need to work together and we need goodwill.
When are we going to hear about how the integration is going to work?
We'll be talking to the organisation in the next few weeks about how we'll manage the integration process.
Has an integration team been formed?
No, not yet, but we're right in the process of doing that now.
What potential is there for asset sales?
Haven't looked at that in a lot of detail, but at this stage it's not really material. There's nothing that we would think of as material divestment opportunity.
What about some of the printing works?
No, there's no plans to divest printing works, and while they've often been proposals that as a content company we don't need to necessarily own the physical printing, it's actually quite hard to make that work as a financial outcome, so at the moment there are no plans to divest printing.
You've identified $35 million in synergies. Is there more to come from the review that you've conducted?
Well, we don't know. We've said at least 35 million of synergies. 35 million was what we could identify from a relatively high level. So now as we go into much more detail, we'll find out just exactly what that number is.
Do you think there's more?
We think it's possibly more, yes, but really don't want to make any proposals or forecasts at all until we've done the work.
You've signalled that Fairfax journalists are going to become multi-platform. Does that mean everyone?
No, it doesn't mean everyone. Clearly it means reporters, and a great number of reporters who are in the field need to be able to, over time, file for a whole range of platforms. There will also be senior columnists and writers who wish to take their brand and take their ability to distribute their writing across a whole range of platforms. And we do a fair bit of that today. But also there'll be clear branded columnists, if you like, who write or do investigative work for particular magazines or for particular newspapers that really work best in that environment, and they'll remain in that environment.
Do you have a view about what proportion of your journalists will work in this new way?
No, I don't think it's possible at this stage, as the business evolves, to put a number on what proportion of the journalists will be truly multimedia and others will be focused more on one medium, but that'll evolve over time.
Do you want the majority to be working that way?
I don't know the answer to that. I think over time, yes, a majority will, and I think a majority will want to be filing for as many media as possible. The
Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, how much scope is there for more common pages?
We don't have any particular plans for common pages. I mean, it's really the editors, clearly, who set what's on the pages and the balance between the various sections. Sometimes we get syndicated content from all around the world, and editors choose to run the same story from some other news organisation in the UK or Europe or USA or wherever. That's the editor's decision, and of course it depends on the story, how hot the story is, and if there are any other ways they can get hold of the content.
But if you're looking for efficiencies, the more content you can use across both newspapers, the better.
We've never had a plan and never thought it was sensible to have a sort of smeared newspaper. Newspapers have really got to talk to their local audience, and that's what editors are all about, and that's what columnists and writers and reporters are all about, is feeling the pulse of the communities they're working for, going out, finding stories from those communities and reporting those stories. Clearly there's international stuff, again, as I said before, might come from syndication, that could double up, just because editors chose to double it up. But newspapers have got to be local and they've got to connect to the local audience.
With the AFR, in the past there have been a number of other proprietors who wanted to buy it. Do they still come calling? No,
I haven't had anyone knock on my door and ask to buy the AFR, largely because I think they know what the answer would be. It's a very valuable business, very well run, doing tremendously well in the scope of international business publishing organisations, and it's definitively not for sale.
Rupert Murdoch has just sold his stake in Fairfax. Did you know he was going to do that?
No, of course not. He makes a decision and then acts on that himself. It's a logical decision for him to do. He'd said consistently that he was buying the stake as a defensive move. He didn't want to see Fairfax broken up or taken over, and he's made the decision that that's now much less likely, and so it's logical that he would sell.
Do you think he's right, that he doesn't need to defend you anymore because you're unlikely to be taken over?
No company's immune from takeover ever, including his. The size and scale of News Corp and the fact that the family has a very strong blocking position means that it's incredibly unlikely that anyone would take it over. But no company is immune. There's lots of capital out there. So people may come knocking on the door, and if they offered a huge cash price for the business, well, all the shareholders would have to consider.
Brian McCarthy didn't have a contract when we talked to him earlier this year. Does he have one now?
No, we haven't signed an agreement, but we've talked in detail about the nature of an agreement, and I think that before long we'll be able to move to confirm that.
What's been holding up signing a contract?
Just a process. There are no issues that to point to, but that's something for Brian and I to work through. And as I say, there are no issues, and we'll move ahead to that fairly shortly.